Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about the various different tax policies and philosophies that you can use. We're actually taxed under all three of these. They're called progressive, regressive, and flat taxation. Let's get to it. We're going to start with progressive taxation. So in this tax structure, well, first of all, let's talk about what taxes are real quick. So taxes are just the money that the government charges its citizens in order to pay for services like the military and benefits and healthcare, police, firefighters, road maintenance, infrastructure. All the things the government pays for comes through taxes. Okay, so people who earn more money in a progressive taxation structure will pay a higher percent of their income in taxes. So the philosophy here is that people who earn more can afford to pay a lot more in taxes. So that's, if you believe that's true, progressive taxation structure would really make sense to you. The result of this is that lower income people have to pay a very small percent in taxes because that tax is being shifted to higher income or wealthier families. The rationale for this is that if you aren't making very much money, if you have a lower income, you're spending almost all your money or all your money on basic necessities. So pulling money from you to pay taxes will really be pulling really necessary things from your family out of the household. And this is the tax system that we use in the federal level at the U.S. government. So when you pay your income taxes, it's a progressive tax situation. Here's what the table looks like right now. So if your taxable income, and this taxable income isn't all the money you made, there's some money that isn't taxed. We'll talk about that later. But if your taxable income is less than $12,000, you only pay 10% in taxes. Whereas if your taxable income is between $13,000 and $47,000, you'll pay $12,000 on that, or 12% on that money. So a $47,000 high earner here would be paying $55,400 in taxes, whereas this $12,000 person is only paying $1,200 in taxes. And you can see that this is about a 4-time increase in income, and this is a more than 4-time increase in taxes. And we jump down here to the bottom. To $609,000 earner is going to be paying $183,000, and the money in this category is taxed at 35%. So you can see how the percents increase dramatically over time as well. Now this isn't very high historically. So in the past, the top tax bracket, this 37% here, that's been up to 91% in the past. So any money you make over $609,000 is taxed at this higher rate of 37%. I hope you have that problem someday, that you're making so much money that you're being heavily taxed on it. So yay for you. All right, flat rate tax is the next one we want to talk about. Excuse me. In this kind of system, everyone pays the same percent of their income to taxes. So instead of making a higher percent, everyone pays 20% of their income as taxes across the board. So overall, people with lower incomes will pay less than people with higher incomes because 20% of a small number is less than 20% of a big number. But these policies require that everybody has to pay a median percent. Sometimes you'll hear politicians say, we're going to do a flat tax rate and bring everyone's taxes really low. But what that will do is just take a bunch of money away from the government. So this is kind of what it looks like. So on this table on the left, this is our current tax system. You can see the amount. This is how much taxes are collected from the highest earner in each category. So if you're making $47,000, you're getting taxed $5,400 approximately. $244,000, $55,780. Now we went into a flat tax, and sometimes people have a 10% tax, flat tax. If we went to that, look what would happen. Our lower income families wouldn't be affected at all, but then everybody else would get a decrease. These would get a small decrease, only $700. And the farther we go down, notice how all of a sudden the people getting the biggest tax decrease by going to a flat tax would be the wealthiest people up here. So if you're making $609,000, you're paying $183,000, that would drop to $60,000. So a savings of over $120,000, your tax bill will be cut into a third. So that's a pretty huge savings there. And that's the flat tax rate system. Regressive taxes. So progressive was wealthier families pay a higher percent. This is the opposite of that. This is where everyone pays the same amount of tax, and the result of that is that lower income families pay a higher percent of their income in taxes. Let's look at how that works. So the people who make more money pay a lower percent of their income in taxes. People who make less money pay a higher percent in taxes. Some examples of regressive taxes. That might seem kind of messed up to you, like the people who aren't making very much money are already struggling. Why would we want them to pay a higher percent in taxes? And let's talk about the types of taxes that this falls under. Sales tax is a big one. So if we go to the grocery store and we all buy the exact same food because we're just feeding a human, everyone's going to pay the exact same sales tax because they have the same food. But if you make a lot of money, that additional sales tax to your grocery bill won't be very meaningful to you. You'll be like, oh, that's no big deal. Whereas if you're struggling to get by and you're paying that exact same sales tax, that's going to be painful for you. It's going to take up a big chunk of your money. So you end up, it's the same amount for everyone, but people who make less money, it represents a bigger percent of their income. And that's why it's an aggressive tax, or regressive tax, I should say. Another example are any kind of flat fees. So a license plate fee, your driver's license fee, fees to get into like state parks, national parks, all of these things that are charged the same to everybody are regressive. They're going to hit lower income families harder than higher income families. Another one, road tolls. Again, everybody pays the same toll when you go over a bridge. Property tax is another one. Now this one is a little bit less regressive than the other ones because wealthier people tend to buy more expensive properties, so they pay more in property tax. But it doesn't keep up with their wealth. So if you make 10 times more money than I do, what we find from the data is you don't buy a house that's 10 times more expensive. You buy a house that's 2 or 3 times more expensive. So you're still not paying, your increase in taxes isn't keeping up with your increase in income. So it still becomes a regressive tax. All right, let's look at a quick example. So let's say that everyone pays a federal gas tax of 18%. Let's say 2 families drive the same amount every year, and they both end up paying about $300 a year in that tax. So after buying all the gas all year, about $300 went to paying that tax for each family. But one family has an income of $30,000 a year. That represents 1% of their income for that gas tax. So that's kind of painful. Whereas the other family, let's say they make $300,000 a year. That's only 0.1% of their income. So because it's the same for both families, it hits the lower income family harder than it does for the higher income family. Awesome. And those are our 3 tax policies. So we'll start using these 3 terms as we talk about fairness and what it means to be a taxpayer in our country and where we pay these different kind of taxes. All of us pay, there are examples of all 3 of these tax philosophies in our lives today. All right. I kind of gave this one, I apologize. So on this, I meant for you to think about it, well, it doesn't matter. On here, so we think of a spectrum here, and on this side is tax policies that require lower income households to kind of shoulder more of the burden of taxes. And on this side is where higher income families pay more of the taxes. They would fall out like this. So progressive taxation really does shift that tax burden to higher income families. And then regressive really shifts it more towards lower income families. And then flat taxation you might think would be like right in the middle, but the reality is when you go flat, it still is putting a lot of burden on lower income families. So it still increases that burden. So it's kind of off to the left here. Not quite as burdensome as the regressive, but not as shifted towards the wealthy as progressive is. All right, everyone. Good job today. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.